Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the H2G podcast. It is Monday, and we have a very special guest in the house. But before we get to her, we got to get around the horn and see how everyone's weekend was. We will start with the lady with the baby, one of my favorite people. Christy, how was your weekend? What was the best part of it?
My weekend was great. The best part was that we have new flooring in our kitchen, so it's not like old 70s flooring laminate garbage anymore. It looks kind of modern, so that's the best part, and it's going to continue to be the best part. It's awesome.
Awesome. New flooring's good. I don't know, but Richie, how was your weekend? What was the best part of it?
Best part was okay, so quick side story. I was supposed to have a date with someone who had in for the week. So I'm growing this mustache. It's only been a week, so it's starting to look, I shouldn't be at parks with small children is what it looks like right now. It's just not thick enough yet. Then I got this zit thing, and it was way bigger than this. So like on Wednesday, because of me having to wear a mask because of work and I have to be on site, I had this giant zit. I'm talking, it was like the size of a quarter. I mean, this thing was monstrous. So even though the dermatologist says, don't pop these things yet, I popped it. And it was like, as you can see, there's still residual. Having said that, the date went well, even with the pedo mustache and the zit on the face, like went pretty well. So that was the best part of my week.
Oh man, that's a lot to process. All right. Well, I didn't even notice until you pointed it out. Chelsea, how was your weekend and what was the best part?
Don't know if I can top that. So I wrapped up my last day at my job on Friday. So that was, bittersweet. There's definitely, coworkers that I'm going to miss, and it's like closing a chapter of your life, so to speak. So I have this week off actually, which is amazing. I get to kind of focus on some things that I've been wanting to work on that I haven't really had time for. So I start my new job a week from today. On the 26th. So I'm really excited to see what all that looks like. But overall, yeah, it's been a nice, relaxing, not having to worry about going back to work this week. So it's been good.
Very cool. Like an actual spring break, not just an H2G spring break.
Exactly.
All right. And without further ado, we have one of my favorite people in the studio today. Her name is Andrea Schreiner. She is the host of the Sweetheart Soul Sessions podcast. She's also an actress and a musician and a teacher and a mentor and so many things. How are you, Andrea?
I am doing great. Thank you guys so much for inviting me to be here. I think that what you guys do on here is so much fun, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
Well, we are happy to have you. Now, I have already kind of got everybody on cast who wasn't already. I know Richie was already a fan of Sweetheart Soul Sessions, and we kind of made sure that everyone was aware of the podcast. But for our listeners and viewers, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and also a little bit about Sweetheart Soul Sessions?
Yeah, so I am a wife and a mother, and I'm a theater director at a local high school here in Ohio. And but first and foremost, I'm a natural born clairvoyant and empath. So I do intuitive readings, and also I'm a Reiki practitioner, and I do chakra balancing. So the world of theater and the world of empathy kind of go hand in hand, and I have a lot to say about it, and a lot based on the experiences that I've had and the sessions that I've done with people. So I thought about a year and a half ago, why not start a podcast to actually kind of archive all of these things that I'm experiencing and seeing that happen within people, and it could help someone. And so I had no intentions of keeping it going this long. I just kind of wanted to see. I had never done a podcast before. I wanted to see what it was all about. And it's so weird because every time I kind of pull back from it, or, I'm kind of procrastinating on getting episodes out, right? Because we all know how that can be. I'll have somebody message me and just say, listen, like, I'm waiting for a new episode, or like, I'm all like, I'm up to date on all your episodes. Like, are you coming out with a new one? Or they'll message me and say, hey, like this one about flaws, or this one about signs from, our loved ones that have crossed over. Like, that really helped me. Like, thank you so much for doing it. So it just seems like something that is aligned with my purpose right now, and I'm happy to do it.
Absolutely. Well, I am quite the fan, and it's a great show for those of you out there that are have decided to join some of us cast members on health journeys. It's a great show for running. It takes your mind off of the pain of running, and you can just kind of listen and tune in. I actually, while I was running last week, was checking out your episode entitled "Self-Sabotage Stops Now," and I thought that there was one, a lot of really good stuff in there, but two, it reminded me a lot of kind of what we were talking about on the podcast. I think it was last season when we were talking about the importance of a work-life balance. And so I just kind of wanted to bring that back to the table. And in the episode, you had talked a lot about the expectations that somebody sets for themselves. And whether or not expectations and plans and even goals that they run after, and whether or not those are actually for the individual or for the people around them or for validation or things like that. So I wanted to open that back up around the table. I will send it to you first, Andrea, of course, but if anybody wants to chime in.
Yeah, so I'm a Libra, and from as long as I can remember, I have trouble making decisions, or so I've been labeled as having trouble making decisions, right? And if you're not into astrology or anything like that, that's okay too. I mean, you could be a female or a male, and there's going to be labels that are attached to you because of who you're supposed to be. There could be labels attached to you as far as your ethnicity. I mean, we all have these like tags that are attached to us that say what we're supposed to be and what we're not supposed to be. And so from a young age, I guess I had this label or this tag or this belief that I'm indecisive. So I carry that through in a lot of the things that happened to me in my life. Something very small as far as like, and we all know this, like when my husband's like, hey, what do you want for dinner? I'm like, I don't know. What do you want for dinner? I do that thing, right? There's like a million memes made about that, right? Where it's like, I still don't know what I want to eat. Like that's a real thing in my life, but it's not just that. It translates to a lot of other things. And so I think that our belief systems that maybe are placed upon us from something else or someone else can actually hinder us living our best lives. Because what I've discovered is I'm not indecisive. I actually, at all times, know what I want. We all do. On a subconscious level, we always really know what we want, right? But we choose to play the role of a label that's been put on us because that's what's familiar. That's all that we know. We don't know that we can choose something else. Like I know that Chelsea said she's doing a new job, like about leaving your old job. And I'm just going to flip my screen so I can see her, but like leaving your old job, like that might be something where other people around you might not have supported that. They might have said to you, hey, do you really think this is the right time? Do you really think this is a good decision for you? Do you think that this is the right choice? And you might start to think, yeah, is this really the right choice? Can I trust myself? Can I depend on myself to know what's right for me in this moment? And when we take on the beliefs of other people or other things around us, it can frazzle us. And then you might not make that change when deep inside your heart, you know, it's time to move to this new career. It's been like a long time coming. So you finally decided to do it. And sometimes you just have to push past the beliefs that have been placed on you, or the beliefs that you've accumulated yourself. So.
I'll go. Sorry. We used to have this a little more on lock, so I wasn't. Yeah. Anyway, hi. I've also been enjoying your podcast. Not nearly as long as Justin. I caught it, the first one with Justin. I think it was like an hour long, give or take. And I remember listening to it, and it was just interesting for me because one, I don't think he's ever really talked. Well, wait, he's over here for me. And he doesn't really talk like about a lot of his journey. And I thought that was like super cool to hear. So the first thing I want to do is just compliment you. I think you do a great job of when your guests are on there. It was just really cool to see how easy he opened up with you. So my question to you is like, what kind of really got you motivated? I know you said you like just started it just to try it, but was there like a particular purpose? Like, this is why I wanted to do this? Because I love the idea of your podcast. It's nice to have something that's just like, it's just very relaxing, like Justin said. And it was kind of funny because I have Peloton. And so I was doing one of the classes, like Justin said, it's like, oh, let me like ride my bike while I'm doing this class. But the only problem is I wasn't listening to the instructor and then I had to go too fast. So you're like really calm and it's really fast. It wasn't a good combo. But having said that, It's very relaxing. And so what really got you into the podcast direction? What was like, I'm going to give this a shot?
So there's two things. The first thing is because I am extremely intuitive, I pick up on things all the time. Like even just sitting here with you guys right now, I'm picking up on things. For some reason, I was born hypersensitive to energy, and it's not something that I studied. It's not something that I took classes to open up my third eye chakra and my crown chakra and to learn how to. This isn't something that I embarked on. This is something that has always been a part of me from a child, and I pushed it away for a really long time. And in my late 20s, I'm 37 now, but in my late 20s, it was probably about 10 years ago, I couldn't push it away anymore. It was becoming more and more palpable. It was becoming more and more strong. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to be accumulating all of this energy that I'm sensing from other people, that I need to put it somewhere. So that was the first reason that I started the podcast, is for me to kind of, when there's a lot of input and not a lot of output, it becomes very taxing on someone who's intuitive. And all of us are intuitive. All of us are empaths, all of us. It's just, we're on a spectrum. There's a degree to which, how much you use it, how much you let it come to the surface. And for me, it's so on the surface that I thought, okay, if I'm having all this input and no output, I'm going to spontaneously combust. So I was like, I need to put it somewhere. So that was the first part of it. And the second part of it is I see so many people, part of like the sessions that I do with people, like I see so many people struggling, and I call them like asleep. I feel like some people are asleep in their life, where they're kind of like robots. They get up, they do the same thing every day. They eat the same things every day. They don't know that what they're eating and watching and thinking is consuming them. And I think life should be lived the other way around. I think we should be choosing what we consume. And because so many people are hurting, I was like, if this even helps one person, if this can maybe shed some light or help to start that awakening process for even one person, then it was a success.
Yeah, that's really cool, because I was like looking, and you started kind of right before COVID, right? It looks like you started right in that October 2019, at least on Spotify. Yeah. So that's like perfect timing, I feel like, right? We're talking about your empathic type things. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it was really cool to see that. My ex actually was very empathic. So I don't know a lot, but she's always trying to explain to me about like chakras and things like that. How many are there? Is there 7?
There are 7 main ones. There are others that go above the body, like into the etheric body, but usually we don't focus too much on those. Okay.
Here's my question for you. If somebody was wanting to learn more about like chakras and like empathic ability, so to speak, like you talked about, because we're not always in tune with it, where is the best place to start?
That's a really good question, Richie. I would say do a lot of your own research. I'm a huge advocate for reading books, because if I read a book on energy, or I'm reading a book about anything, really, I get to interpret it how I'm interpreting it. The trouble with like reaching out and finding a mentor or taking a workshop is that there are a lot of strings attached to that. I know a lot of people that will take like if you go on Facebook, sometimes they'll have these things, or even Instagram, where like it'll be like learn Reiki online. Like it's very hard to learn Reiki online, because Reiki has to do with connecting with somebody else. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I don't know how legit that is. So I think that if you're reading a book and you're reading up on these things and you're doing your own research, it kind of allows you to go with the flow. Because if you take a workshop or something, there might be things in that workshop that you're like, this does not resonate with me. Like I took a workshop on confidence, I don't know, a couple months ago because I was interested. And let's face it, I mean, even the person that is the most empathic, intuitive, aligned, balanced person in the world still deals with very human things. And confidence is a really big thing for a lot of people. So I took this workshop and I was so disappointed because I had such high expectations for it. And it was horrible for me. It didn't do anything for me. I wasn't interested in doing the activities. It just didn't feel aligned with my purpose. But if I buy a book and I'm doing my own research, I will naturally kind of go in the flow of what it is that calls to me versus being told something. So I would say read books, do your own research. Okay,
great. I just have one last thing, if you could kind of give our audience, because this was something that I'd learned a little bit about, but I found it kind of interesting, like the concept of courting, like in chakras. Can you kind of elaborate to just the basic general term to our audience? Because for me, I never really realized I had done that to people, kind of just have my energy out there. So would you mind kind of speaking about it?
Like energetic cords?
Yes, energetic cords, yeah.
So I think that I never think that energetic cords are a mistake. So I think that that's something very, like, first and foremost to understand that if you have a connection with someone, the connection is not a mistake. Because in our current physical life, the path of life that you're living right now, there is stuff that's left over. There's stuff that you're drawn to because of past life. There's stuff that you're drawn towards because of your inner child. There's stuff that you're drawn towards because of intuition. There's stuff that you're drawn towards for all different reasons. So if you have a lot of energetic cords that you're connecting with other people, they're never a mistake. There's like a karmic story that has to play out with everybody that you've ever met. I mean, even the fact that I'm here talking to you guys right now, and even the fact that I know Justin is kind of happenstance. I mean, truly, because I was working with him as a vocal director on a production that he was in, and then the production never happened. And so, but the energetic cord is still there. So my question is, okay, I'm not going to assume that that's a mistake or that's a problem or that I need to cut my cord since we're not working together anymore. Like, I acknowledge that as there's something more that needs to play out here. Who knows? Maybe it's culminating right now. Maybe this was the reason. Maybe it was to bring me to Christy, or who knows? Who knows? So I would say the energetic cords are never a mistake, first and foremost. The second thing with energetic cords is that a lot of times when we feel a relationship has run its course in any way, right? It could be romantic or platonic, whatever, or even family related. When we feel an energetic cord has run its course, and we feel, okay, I need to actually remove these cords. The best way to do that is through visualization. I would recommend doing a visualization of, you sit someplace comfortable. Some people like to be out in nature because it grounds you. It grounds your root chakra. But I would sit there and I would think about the person. If you have items of theirs, it might be helpful to have the items in front of you. And what is very helpful is just to envision these energetic cords wrapped around your wrist like pieces of yarn. And for me, because I'm clairvoyant, a lot of the images that I see in my mind are very vivid all day long. So sometimes I'll see an energetic cord wrapped around my wrist and it'll be glowing. And I'll know that that's the one that needs to be cut. And I take a metaphorical pair of scissors and I will actually cut that cord. And it just kind of sets off your energetic body in the right direction of, okay, we're separating ourselves from this. We feel as though it has run its course. Does it always work on the first try? No. Sometimes you have to do that multiple times. I hope that answers your question, Richie.
No, it does. I really appreciate it. Because like I said, when I first met my ex, she was talking about cords and courting. and she was able to like kind of identify them for me. I was just like, wait, like I didn't really understand the concept, but I appreciate you telling me that I shouldn't necessarily remove them. That's nice to hear, because I was kind of told something on the other perspective. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Andrea. But there's plenty of people on the cast. I'm going to let them take their turn on the questions.
Okay.
Okay. I'll go next then. So as far as being an empath, because I'm probably not quite as strong as you are, but I do sense things with other people. Like I pick up on energies and stuff. What's the hardest part about that for you, especially since it's such a big part of your life?
Oh my gosh, girl. So the first thing is that you have to constantly remind yourself that you're not making this shit up. That's the first thing, because for a really long time, that's what I thought. I thought, I'm a theater person. I'm an actress. I've been trained. And, you know, I am a shapeshifter. Actors are shapeshifters, right? Like we all know this. Like everybody's always playing a role. You feel like you slip in and out of things. So my first thing was that this is not an overactive imagination. This actually has a root. This actually is occurring because of all these other synchronicities that are going on around me. So that's the first thing, is just like, you're not making stuff up, because clairvoyant images pop up organically. It's not something I'm sitting here and I'm trying to, you know, if I say to you guys, close your eyes and envision a butterfly, and the butterfly looks like a monarch. So you can see the vibrant oranges and the deep dark black, and then the white spots. Like, yeah, you could conjure that image. Clairvoyance is not like that. Clairvoyance is an image that is given to you. It's not an image that you're creating. And so when I realized that, it totally changed my life. So it was really hard for me at first, to answer your question, to not be a skeptic to myself. So that's one of the hardest things. And then once I got past that, the thing that I deal with now is knowing that I'm sensing something about someone and choosing whether or not I'm going to share that with that person. Because people have to be ready for sessions. Like you have to be ready to be told that, you know, you're going to have another child next year, or you have to be ready to know that, I don't know, like your father that passed away when you were 16, like, you know, and didn't have a good relationship with, that he's trying to step forward and, you know, bring some, like a level of forgiveness. Like people have to be ready for that. So it's always kind of, I'm always in that limbo between, it's like, okay, I'm really sensing this really strongly. Do I put myself out there and say, hey, I have something that I want to talk to you about. Are you good with it? So I would say not knowing that you're not making stuff up, and then also deciding if you're going to use your gifts or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And as far as like, I guess this is probably more general, not just people who are very like attuned to things, but when you're going through a difficult situation and you're trying to like trust your gut, so to speak, like what is your advice as far as, you know, whether that's visualizing something or trying to like process that on your own? Is there a certain way that you feel like people can kind of get in tune with themselves and figure out what the right path is?
Yeah. So trusting your gut is just that. I mean, it was labeled that for a reason. When I'm sensing something, if it's anxiety, for me, it's up really high. I feel it in my solar plexus, which is your torso. I feel it up really high. Anxiety is a high frequency. It's a high energy. It's kind of a heady thing, right? So when I'm sensing something, if it's fear or anxiety based, I will feel it up high in my torso. If it's not, if it's something that is like, okay, this is your intuition, this is your instinct, you need to be trusting your gut, I'll feel it down low. It'll be lower. It almost feels like it has more power to it, or it's heavier. It's almost like it's rooted. It's like, I'm here, I'm staying here, I'm not going anywhere. And it makes more sense because, like I said, I'm sure that most of us here have dealt with anxiety or panic before. I mean, we're human beings. We all, on some level, have experienced this. And like I said, anxiety is very frantic feeling. And so when you're trying to make a decision, or you're trying to say, okay, I'm dating this person, or I'm with this person, I'm not sure if I should be with them anymore. I'm not sure if I should trust them. If the feeling is very heavy and frantic, like anxiety is, chances are it's probably rooted in fear. And it could be something that was left over from a previous relationship or, you know, romantic or not, something that you were taught. And so you're carrying it over into this relationship. But if you feel it really down low and you're like, wow, I feel some sort of way about this, but I don't really have any reason to feel this. Like I don't have any fears associated with this. Usually that is your gut. That is your instinct saying, hey, I'm trying to tell you something. Like, just really quick, I'll tell you this. Before COVID happened, I was having a very strong aversion to bringing my kids to school, which makes me sound like the world's worst mother. And my husband has a hard time understanding when I have these trust my gut sort of situations. And I said to him, I know that this doesn't make any sense to you, but you have to honor what I'm feeling. I'm feeling a very strong aversion to bringing them to school. And I pulled both of my kids and I had them go remote. And it was, I don't know, a month and a half later, and COVID hit and everything was shut down. I was sensing collectively this energy of fear about what was about to happen. And even though my husband didn't understand, it wasn't an anxiety that I had had before. I don't have anxiety. My kids have to go to school. Why would I have anxiety centered around that? But it had, something had shifted. And I was like, whoa, I'm all of a sudden feeling super, super anxious about this. And I have to listen because there's no cause. There is no known cause, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know if Christy has any questions.
Okay. So with your empathic ability, so I used to be able to kind of sense what other people were thinking, but since I had a baby, literally all of my focus is on him constantly. So like, I'm totally unaware of my surroundings anymore. Is there like anything you would say, like, how do you get that?
So, Christy, I love this question because the same thing happened to me. So from when I was in third grade, I knew what teacher I was going to have the next year. I would see a vision of the teacher and then I would have that teacher. And then when I was in high school, I used to do card reads for friends. You know, we would sit in the theater and just do card reads and things like that. And my mom is Native American, so I know I don't look like her, but my mom, she is, and she looks it. But she taught me how to read tea leaves when I was very young, and so this is something that is generational. It's been passed down to me. So like when I was a teenager, I was really open to it and really doing all of these other things that I didn't realize why I was so good out of my group of friends. But then boom, I had my first son when I was 22, and then boom, I had my second son when I was 24. So I had my babies back to back. And so when I had them, because I essentially had twins, you know, you could say, right? Everything stopped. Everything stopped. And I think that is a protection for you because your maternal instincts are taking the driver's seat and they don't want you. And when I say they, I mean like the powers that be, the universe, the higher power, your subconscious, your soul, right? Doesn't want you distracted with other people's things because then it becomes debris in your aura. It just becomes a distraction. And he's the most important thing. As far as your soul is concerned, he's the most important thing. So it's going to filter out everything else that's not necessary right now. But then, like I said, when I turned 27, right? So the boys were a little bit older, right? Not super old. I mean, they're still little. But when I turned 27, it came back and it came back stronger. It was almost like, okay, your kids are out of diapers now. You know, they're old enough to kind of like put a hat on themselves and put their coat on and stuff. Like as soon as I got to a point where they were not in the baby stage, it came back. So I'm willing to say, Christy, that when he is a little bit older, these empathic feelings and these intuitive nudges are going to come back and maybe even stronger than before. I think also becoming a mom kind of cracks you open like an egg. It kind of creates this new sense of awareness. Like before I had the boys, I thought that I understood a lot of things. And then when I had kids, I realized that I didn't understand shit. Like truly, that's when you start to wake up and you're just like, oh my God, I'm responsible for this human that somehow, like you guys are going to laugh. When I was pregnant with my second, with George, my youngest, I said to, oh no, it was with Joseph. It was with my oldest. I had said to a group of my friends, they're like, are you so excited? You know, like you're due next week and all this stuff. And I just said, I go, I'm like terrified because he's in there and I don't know how he's going to come out. And they're like, Andrea, you're going to go into labor. And I'm like, I know, but like how? Like how does he come out though? Like he's in there. And he's got to come out. Like, I just was so totally like spooked by this idea that this, and I think it might've been, I don't know. One of my best friends said, the body knows what to do. And it's like, once you have that baby and you realize the body really does know what to do, we don't know shit. That's when you start to awaken and you realize like, all right, there's more to this thing called life.
That's awesome. Oh my goodness. You're a wealth of information and I love it. And I also just want to say, I started laughing when you said visualize a butterfly because Richie is deathly terrified of butterflies. And I apologize. I could not hold it in. It was
we don't have to look at the tape. I wasn't scared or anything. Nope.
I almost didn't even say butterfly. I was going to say something else, but then I kept going back to, I think the butterfly was for Chelsea specifically, but I was having a tug of war in my mind, like say something else. But then I was like, no, I really see a monarch for her. So, which is a grandmother.
I literally have monarch butterflies tattooed up my
I was about to say, there's a reason why.
It's a family. Yeah.
There you go, girl. See?
Yeah.
Validation.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, this is awesome. There was another, Andrea, before we go into the last word, and I'll explain what that is. There was another thing you mentioned. I think this was same episode, the self-sabotage episode. You were talking about hypnotherapy. Could you kind of get us hip on to what that is and where someone might look to have that done?
Yeah, so hypnotherapy is awesome, guys. It's a little bit stronger than a meditation and it's guided. So somebody will guide you through the steps of going into your subconscious to kind of rifle through what's in there. And I visualize it, guys, as like going into your basement, into the boxes that you have in storage, or going up to your attic. I like to use the idea of actually going into the attic more because it's a metaphor for your mind, you know? But if you think about it, if you guys all go up into the attic of your mind, there's going to be so much stuff up there. We are hoarders when it comes to energy and emotions and things that have happened to us in our lives. And we box everything up and we keep it in the attic of our mind. And I think what hypnotherapy does is it allows you to climb that ladder up into that attic and start to wipe the dust off of some of those boxes and see what's actually up there and whether or not you want to keep it. So that's what I think hypnotherapy is. Meditation is a little bit more mild. Meditation is a little bit more like you doing spring cleaning in your house. You're on the same level as where you are now. I'm speaking to you, right? So we're all on a similar plane of awareness right now. But hypnotherapy takes you upstairs. So you're not here on this plane. You're a little bit more elevated. You're a little bit more into yourself. A little bit more introspection is happening. And the last time that I did hypnotherapy, I saw myself as it, I'll just give you guys like a little side thing here, just so nobody feels like, you know, like, oh God, well, I don't know if I want to see the things that I would have packed in those boxes. Like sometimes people are not ready to see what they have hoarded. But I had seen an image of my biological father holding me when I was probably 4 years old. And it was a memory that I never thought would surface. I don't think about it. I don't speak to him. I haven't seen him since I was 10. So, and my mom was essentially a single mother for my whole life. And so, it was very weird that I would go back to this memory during the hypnotherapy. And I just remember that I was crying and he was telling me that I shouldn't be crying. And when I came out of that hypnotherapy, the healing that came with me was that There's nothing wrong with crying. There's nothing wrong with being vulnerable. I call it Sweetheart Soul Sessions because there's nothing wrong with tapping into the good. You know, we live in a society that glorifies the ugly all the time, and there's nothing wrong with tapping into your good, and it might make you feel a little bit better. So when I came out of that session, I felt like I was finally able to unpack something that was existing in my subconscious. Like I said to you, never in a million years would I think that memory would surface, but it did. So it must have been there just floating just beneath the surface, waiting for me to remember it. And to now, as a 37-year-old woman, say, that was wrong. And there's nothing wrong with the fact that I was 4 years old and I didn't want to go on a visitation with someone that I didn't know. So that's what hypnotherapy can do.
Wow, that is incredible. Well, Andrea, I want to thank you for coming on the H2G podcast. And folks, we did sucker her into joining us on another episode this week. I'm not even going to tell you which day. You just got to tune in every single day. But Andrea, before we let you go today, we've got about 2.5 minutes left. If we have a segment here at the H2G podcast that we love called The Last Word, and it's really anything that you want to impart upon those of us in the studio, and then those listening and watching, and along with where we can find the Sweetheart Soul Session podcast. And I also, you have another page that for that as well.
So you can find Sweetheart Soul Sessions on Spotify and Google Play and also Anchor. I'm sure there's other platforms that it's available. All you have to do is type in Sweetheart Soul Sessions. Sweetheart is one word. And I also have a page on Facebook called Sweetheart Soul Sessions, but it's a group, so you have to request to join it. And I have no problem adding people that I've never met before, as long as they really want to be there and for genuine purpose. And I am on Instagram. And I use that for Sweetheart Soul Sessions. But if you type in Andrea Schreiner, you should probably be able to find me, or even Sweetheart Soul Sessions, you should be able to find me on there. But the one thing that I would impart on everybody watching this and those of you that are here is that there's more than what meets the eye. And like I said, we live in a world that manufactures everything that we're supposed to think and believe. And I just... My goal for you, or my wish for you, would be for you to tap into the part of yourself that speaks truth, regardless of what's going on around you. Please know that there's more, and that these synchronicities that happen in your life, or these passions or these callings that you have, they are not coincidence. And they are not just surfacing because it's some trick of your mind. You need to follow what it is that is calling to you, and always stay in your truth, regardless of what other people around you are saying.
Amazing. Andrea Schreiner of the Sweetheart Soul Sessions podcast. This has been the H2G podcast. Tune in tomorrow. Maybe she'll be back tomorrow. Maybe she'll be back Wednesday, Thursday. Who knows? For now, live, laugh, love like it's your last. We'll see you tomorrow night.